All right, everyone. We got a message from a listener with a story here. She said, becoming a working parent didn't make me less ambitious, but it completely changed my relationship with work. Before my kid, work expanded to fill my life. Late meetings, last minute asks. I said yes to everything, and it all felt normal. But now I have a hard stop. Daycare pickup doesn't move, bedtime doesn't care about Slack messages, and there's a tiny toddler who actually expects me to show up when I say I will. But weirdly, that constraint has made me more clear than ever. I still panic. Do I look less ambitious when I say no to late night calls? Does it look like I'm less committed? Work still matters, but I look back a lot at my career before my baby, and a lot of the work decisions felt important because I had the time to make it a priority. So listening to this story, a lot of this really resonates. This shift is something that no one prepares you for. It's not that we got less ambitious. I think it's really that we started setting boundaries. And we are learning to say no.
Welcome back to the hardest job ever. As you can see, we are together and we are recording our final episode of this season. This season has been all about talking about ambition and burnout and what it looks like to be a default parent. And every woman we spoke to was ambitious. They were building something, they were pushing, but everybody's definition of ambition was really, really different, as we learned. So why does it still feel like we're falling short? So did motherhood make us less ambitious, or are we just setting boundaries for the first time?
Yep, so let's dive right into it, right? So before kids, ambition for me felt really clear. I wanted to climb the ladder at work. And so because of that, I gave it my 110%. I said yes to everything. I tried to be available at all times, respond quickly, and the goal was to over-deliver.
Yeah, so I feel like that is every South Asian woman that we know, or in general, like any woman of color who is like constantly gunning for the next big thing in our career before kids, right? Like our listener talked about how her work was her life. Everything in her life was to fit into work. So Karen and I talk about this quite a bit. In this season, we talk about this quite a bit with our guests. I feel like I haven't gotten into my story and how I progressed. So I do want to touch on that a little bit. So some of you guys might know I'm actually a physical therapist by training. So as I started my physical therapy journey, like that was my only passion in life, was to build a fulfilling career. There was no thought of kids, none of that. I was like, I'm going to be the best physical therapist in the whole wide world. And that's what I did. I found my passion in spinal cord injury, and I was like, I'm going to get trained at the best hospital. And then I did that. And in 2020, I got burnt out, and then I did a full-blown career pivot. And you were there for my career pivot. That's when I met you. And I did a full-blown career pivot into health tech as a product manager, which is insane. I worked so hard to get that because I was like, okay, clearly physical therapy is not for me, but like my career is still my whole identity. That is how I define my success in life. And that's the only thing I know, right? That's all that's been drilled into me. So from there, after I made the pivot, shortly after, I had kids and everything changed.
Yeah, and I think being able to do everything and like you said, like really crush it at your job and say yes to everything, right? Like I think that we all think that's a strength, right? Especially pre-baby, being limitless and like doing it all, right? That's a signal that you're doing really good at your job. But no one was asking, what is this actually costing you, right? And like you said, once you had babies, that's when you realized you had to make trade-offs.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you look back at being ambitious, what did that look like before for you? Were there any boundaries, specifically like when you were a PT, for example, or more recently when you pivoted to your newer career? And if you didn't have boundaries, was that normal for you? Like, just walk us through both, I guess, professions for yourself.
Yeah.
And leading up to now.
Yeah, there were honestly no boundaries before kids, right? The only thing that mattered and the only thing I know how to do is excel at my career. As a South Asian woman, that's all I knew. So, as a physical therapist, specifically, I had no boundaries. I was staying late to see patients. I was getting to work early to pick up like my coworkers' patients to cover. And that was just like that's how I'm going to become the best physical therapist ever. Like I was working on weekends as a
Yeah.
PT. That was awful. That really sucked.
That sounds
But
terrible.
I was like, no matter what the cost, I'm going to do this. I'm going to grind it out so I can just be really good at my career. So there were no boundaries set. And I think that's how I got burnt out, TBH. As a physical therapist before kids, I got burnt out.
Right.
Right?
Well, it's because for you, and at least specifically in your career as a PT, the hours you put are how you determine that you're doing well, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Quantity and in addition to quality.
Yeah.
And so you would make your schedule as packed as possible. But then where was the time for you?
Right.
And so that probably led to burnout.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember vividly, I would work 10-hour days, and then I would have 2 to 3 days off. And on my 2 to 3 days off, I couldn't even get off of the couch towards the end of my PT career.
that's
And
terrible.
that's kind of when you knew I was burnt out. But again, I didn't associate. I was just like, I'm burnt out. I'm over this career. I'm going to pivot to something else. So when I pivoted to the health tech career, my dream was I was like, dang, I'm going to be a badass. I'm going to pivot as a medical professional into health tech, and then my eventual goal was to work for a big tech company. Now I look back at that and question myself on all my decisions, ugh. That is so anti me now.
Well, you could still.
I still
It's
could,
just
but
your
it's just
face.
what level of Delulu was I? I thought I could go to a big tech company, be a product manager there. I remember even when I was pregnant, Dhruv and I would be like, yeah, I'm just going to stay at this company for just a little bit right after I have the babies. And then I'm going to try to pivot to the next big thing and then the next big thing. And now I'm like, wow, my company's really great. They're really flexible. My boss is awesome. Everyone's really understanding. I'm like, why would I ever leave now? So it's just crazy how it's pivoted.
I would argue that you were not Delulu. I mean, maybe a little naive.
Yeah.
But I think we talk about this a lot. It's just like a moment in time, this chaotic phase of young children.
Yeah.
And you have two right now, thankfully, who are the same age, and they'll get out of this phase together at the same time, and then you'll have your independence and autonomy back, and then you can pursue whatever dream you want, if that is still to go to a big tech company or do something else. But it's just truly a moment in time. And I remind myself this constantly because I'm also feeling the same way, right? So it's just eventually we'll get back to it. You might want to go back to big tech.
I don't know. I feel like just in general, my definition of ambition and success has changed significantly after becoming a mom. And maybe I'm living in the motherhood bubble right now, but I don't see a world in which I change that definition of success. I don't know. Maybe talk to me in 5 years.
Yeah.
It might change.
It
But
might.
right now I'm in this warped zone where all I can think about is I need balance. I need to prioritize my kids, and that's all I can see. I can't see outside of that.
Yes, and that's how I do feel too. But then when I talk to family or friends who have older kids, once those kids have their own independence and autonomy and the desire to be with their friends and have their lives, we will finally have our lives too. So it's just a question of what we're going to do with our lives then, right? How are we going to allocate our time? Is it to crush it and do the next big thing in big tech, for example, or to do something else? Maybe that time is when we pursue more hobbies or focus more on health or whatever it is. But I do still think this is a moment in time.
Yeah.
It's just right now.
Yeah. What about you? What about your definition of ambition? In this whole season, you've talked about quite a bit how your definition of ambition was defined by your career, et cetera, et cetera. But we never really have gotten into what is it now? You're in this weird phase. What is it right now?
Yeah. So I think I always tied ambition to my self-worth. And my ambition was always tied to solely career too. And so career, ambition, success all together. And that was really unhealthy. And I think that all came clear to me after being laid off. I cannot tie my value and worth in society to my career. That is silly. I also have hobbies. I enjoy nature. I enjoy hiking. I love being a mom. There's so much more to my identity than my career. And I think going back into the workforce after being laid off, I really kept that in mind and kept that as a North Star. I cannot only find fulfillment through career. Work doesn't even need to provide my fulfillment. I could be fulfilled through other things, right? Going back to work as a mom, whether it's post mat leave or post pause or post layoff or whatever season anyone's in, is a really challenging moment because for me, going back to this listener story, I had to really adjust to this period of like making boundaries and saying no. And that's something I had never done before. And for some reason, saying no to a meeting or a work trip and like setting that boundary felt worse than burnout, in my opinion, because like burnout is a breaking point. And usually you're like, oh my God, that was awful. I need to change things. But saying no is scary because you continue to do it. You just continue to say no, no, no. And you question, like, are people judging me? Do people think I'm less committed? And if you're newer in a job, you're more self-conscious. Perhaps if you've been there for a longer time, people are more willing to accept that, and they're because they know your work ethic pre-children.
So tell me about a time then, because when you came back from mat leave, right? How did you start putting boundaries? Because before you weren't putting any boundaries, similar to me.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
what's a specific example?
Yeah, I think
of
my
that?
biggest issue though was coming back from mat leave. I didn't put boundaries up. Yeah, like I really struggled. I had to have my mother-in-law fly out and be with us for that adjustment period because I kept saying yes to things and I was working late, getting to the office early, struggling to relieve my nanny on time, and so I was actually really not doing it well. It wasn't until I got laid off that I realized, oh, I owe work nothing. I'm just a number to them. So then when I returned back to the same company, that time I had a better perspective. And that's when I realized, okay, to make this work for me, for my marriage, for my daughter, for our nanny, I need to have boundaries. And like my personal life is more important by far than my career and professional life. So I need to prioritize. And I do remember like we had a really big program launch coming up and it was a really busy time in the season because of that. Within the first few weeks back, it was like my manager was saying, hey, we have a 4 p.m. meeting. It's going to be 4 to 5. Like, I need you there. We need to have this. We are like at a bottleneck right now. We need to solve this. We need to move forward. And I relieve my nanny at 5 p.m. I leave the office promptly. Like I'm in my car at 4:30 p.m. to make sure I relieve her by 5. And so that was a no for me, but I was terrified of saying, hey, I can't do this because I have to go relieve my nanny. I remember in that moment thinking, oh my God, I just came back to this company. I need to make a better name for myself. I don't want to be the person that was laid off and came back and then look like I'm not in it, you know? I did tell my manager, and thankfully she's a woman and she's a mom. And I straight up was like, I can't make that work. If it's important, like you can be on it or I can call from the car for the first like half, but I cannot be in that meeting because I need to relieve my nanny. And she was like, okay, yeah, like, could you just be on the phone then for the meeting? And I was like, no, because then after I relieve my nanny, it's my time for childcare. So I truly cannot be present for the full meeting. If you get me, it's for the 30 minutes I'm in the car on the phone. I can listen and I can try to participate, but like, this is what it is. And she was like, oh, like, do you not have us on your calendar? And I did not. I did not. I would just sort of leave, and I was always frazzled sometimes because I would take meetings in the car and like whatever. And she was like learn from me. Every morning I manage school drop off and all this stuff. I have a do not schedule on my calendar every morning, and I even say like school drop off. Like it is what it is. Everyone knows. No one puts anything on my calendar, and you need to do the same thing. You need to have 4 to 5 p.m. like as your do not schedule childcare and set that precedence. And that was the first time someone told me that, and especially my manager. So I did do that. I listened to her, and I realized there's so many parents in the office, and you just have to be open, transparent, and put that on your calendar. And then if you need to hop back on later, you can, right? Like, so oftentimes I would just jump back online after my daughter went to bed. But I think I had so much anxiety on what people thought of me, which is crazy. That's what's dictating it all.
What would people say? Yeah. That is also tying it back to the South Asian piece. That is a very South Asian mentality too. What would other people think?
Yeah.
I feel like my other coworkers, it's just like, all right, I'm doing childcare, and then I'm over here stressed about, oh my God, am I going to get judged for leaving like a little bit earlier to go do daycare pickup?
Yeah. I mean, and you travel for work.
Yeah.
So like that is another level that I don't have to deal with because
Right.
like my husband travels, I don't travel much at all for work. And so for me, it's just like I'm the consistent person that's picking up or like relieving nanny more so and doing all that. But when you travel, I mean, how do you manage those boundaries?
Yeah, it's so hard because oftentimes the travel will come up even last minute. So for me, it really came down to communicating. There were two pieces to that. Communication, saying no, I can't. Like I don't have childcare, and everyone's like typically cool with that. But the harder piece though was my that promotion story I told you guys. I think it was this season, but I had to decline a promotion because that job title comes with a lot more travel, twice a month travel. So it was both on like, yes, I had to communicate, but also I can't take that job title that I really want, unfortunately. Sahana said it really well in our episode. Your career does take a hit when you become a mom, and it's more of a mindset shift than being like my career is getting destroyed.
Yep, it is. Your definition of success changes.
Yeah.
The idea of ambition changes. It doesn't go away. It just broadens in a different way, right? So something I think is very interesting is every woman we spoke to this season is incredibly ambitious, right? Like you mentioned. But none of them were doing everything at the same time. There was always trade-offs. And there was always support behind the scenes, whether it was a nanny, parents, in-laws. There is always more than just the mom, dad, and children, right? And I think the ones who felt most grounded weren't doing more. They were just clear on what they were not doing and creating those boundaries.
I totally agree with that. And I want to tie it back to a story that's really in the forefront of my mind. For Dhruv and I, it's been really tough because his job has had peaks and valleys, I'd like to say. Like there's been times of ramp up and then it's slowed down and ramp up. And I've really had to adjust my boundaries with him, my in-laws, as well as my work whenever those peaks and valleys come by. So it's like there's 3 months period of Dhruv is working like crazy. Then I have to go back, set my boundaries at work and say, okay, for these next 3 months, like for example, Dhruv's about to start something new for the next 3 months. I know it's going to consume a lot of his time. So now I have to go back to work and say, okay, well now I'm going back to my default parent duties. I'm the one that's going to be taking on most of the childcare. That means I'm the one that's going to have to block my calendars to go do pickup, drop off, plus this, that. And because I will no longer have in-law support for the next probably 6 months, now I will like really have to like communicate with my boss. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I feel like really scared for this next transition period that's coming up for summertime. I think I'm going to have to say no to more things. I've pretty much canceled all my travel at work for the next few months. But I'm just really scared. And like my job's picking up. I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, and I don't have my support.
You don't have your in-laws.
I don't have my in-laws.
I think the one thing I'll say is just sort of what I just shared with my story, which is I was so scared to be like, I can't do this meeting. And once I told my manager the situation, she was so understanding, right?
Right.
And it's like, for me, it was like as simple as putting something like do not schedule on the calendar.
Yeah.
And for you, it could be just having that same transparent conversation of, hey, the next 3 to 4 months is going to be a lot on my family. And so I really, unfortunately, have to take a step back from a travel standpoint, but can do all the other things as needed.
I don't know about you though. Like I understand like the logistical piece, we can manage that with our bosses, but the mental exhaustion that is going to come with me being default parent and not having any sort of like safety net. I'm really scared of that because it's like, yeah, sure, I can do daycare pickup drop off, but then the thought of starting work after dropping them off at 9 a.m. and after you're solo doing everything is exhausting. Yeah. I'm not mentally fully there. I'm still reeling from the morning craziness. And I'm like, how do you expect me to switch from childcare to working immediately, right? So that's also where I'm concerned about my performance might take a hit. That's what I'm trying to say. My performance might take a hit in these next few months because I'm going to be doing everything.
Right. And something that I like a bunch of my friends and I say is that we're like really hard workers. So our 75% is like a regular person's 100%.
So true.
And I think it's important to remember.
Yeah.
If you give your 70-80% at work during these few months because you are doing so much, like it's still going to be 100% to the average person, right?
Yeah.
So take a step back.
Yeah. You're
for
right.
these few months. You don't have to be like 100% on right now.
That's very true.
You can go back to that once Dhruv's work stabilizes a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because he's just at a really tough period for the next few months.
Yeah.
So it is a moment in time again, back to it all being ebbs and flows and a moment in time. It's a moment in this year. It's a moment in life. Eventually it will stabilize though.
Yeah. And I liked Sahana's comparison of the pie because right now like my pie is really nicely split up because Dhruv is kind of being default parent. He's picking up a lot more of the slack, but literally next week, guys. Next week. It's gonna be
Yeah.
my pie is gonna be like 75% motherhood, and the 25% is gonna be work. And then where do I fit in self-care? I don't know. Not no workout, no nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Borvi this morning was so excited to take a shower. She was like, Karen, I don't really shower anymore. This is awesome. I love the fact that we're on this trip so I can take a long ass shower. And I'm like, okay, so we came out here so you could shower. And she walked out of that shower and she was like, that was amazing.
Yes, I am a new person for sure. It's just like you were saying, it's so hard taking a shower after you put them down.
Yeah.
So late at night. Ain't nobody got time to shower. I'd rather go to bed smelly. It
Yeah.
might be a hot take, but
I do it too, honestly,
Yeah.
a lot. And yeah, I feel like that's after you put them down, you're like, you're so exhausted from the whole day. You rather just decompress and like go read a book or whatever, go do something that does not require your brain. And that active showering and like especially washing your hair, that is too much.
Yeah.
That is way too much.
Way too much. Way too much.
Too much. Well, going back to just the season itself, since this is our final episode, I do want to think about the guest speakers we had because we had some wonderful people on the show. I'm curious, Borvi, what patterns stood out to you from our guests? Did anyone change how you think and feel about like ambition and success?
Yeah. So one of the biggest ones that stood out to me was actually Dr. Mona. She was our season opener, and one thing she said is something's gotta give. And that has been just playing in the back of my head since we recorded with her. It's like you literally cannot have it all. So how do you say no? How do you adjust? And how do you find your village?
Yeah, ask for help.
Yes. How do you ask for help? Because us South Asians, we hate asking for help. I feel like I should be able to do it all, and that was very much my mindset on before recording that.
And that's because
episode.
our moms did it all, right?
Yeah.
So we see that and it's natural to feel the same way.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the biggest takeaways for me was Dr. Mona.
Yeah. I'm thinking back now the season 2. I think we went into this season thinking ambition meant doing it all. And I think every guest showed us that that definition does not survive motherhood. Perhaps that was like, in our 20s, but not now. I would say thinking about like Avni Modi, I think she really pushed us to let go of tying our worth and our value to career and academic achievement only. And she really focused on finding joy and fulfillment through our family and just like the little things every day, right? And making sure we lean into that rather than leaning into like the corporate ladder and getting promotions and titles and things like that. And I think Sahana more recently, right? I think that's really top of mind. Sahana Carlson, I'd say that she showed us that we have to say no at work, and that doesn't make us less ambitious. It actually allows us to make ambition more sustainable. And so if I'm really thinking about all of it and these 3 guests we had this season, ambition is not about doing more. It's about choosing what actually matters and being okay with letting the rest go.
How are you going to put that into practice, girl? Because you're still like, I gotta keep hustling.
I don't know.
What's one thing that you've changed? I think is a good question. Since we've gone through this full season, is there anything you've changed?
I've acknowledged that I need to learn to relax, but I don't know how to do it. But I've acknowledged that relaxation is required. And it means just unplugging from the thing that's saying, like, keep going in your mind, right? Whether it's work or whether it's the next thing or do the next thing, like, you can't sit. I've acknowledged that perhaps just sitting and doing nothing or, like, reading a good book, a fictional book, and I'm obsessed with stupid business books, and I need to stop with that because, like, I think I'm obsessed with consuming things and learning or just the brain being on always, and I need to not do that.
Yes. I think that's a huge takeaway for you.
Yeah. I mean, I like binge watch all of Heated Rivalry in like 2 days,
Yeah.
And that was like, as you call it, my brain was rotting. But honestly, it was like truly the best show ever.
Yeah.
And I cried, I laughed. It was everything I needed,
Good.
But I need to make more space and time and energy for that.
Yes, exactly. You were telling me that your best friend actually called you out on your shit recently.
She did. She called me out.
You want to talk about that?
She called me out a few days ago.
Yeah.
She lives in SF. I came out to visit because we're here in SF right now. And yeah, she was like, girl, all you've been doing for the last year is just like go, 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 go. You don't relax. And like, this is what's causing the swirl, I think, right? I genuinely think that I am causing myself to have an existential crisis because I keep thinking about what could be changed, what could be done differently, what, like basically how to optimize my life. My life is not a business. My life doesn't need to be optimized. I'm not trying to generate like ROI on every fucking minute, you know? The goal is to maximize my joy and increase relaxation and find more happiness and stability, right? I don't know why I keep thinking my life is like, I gotta hustle.
Yeah.
There's no ROI
Yeah.
with my life, right?
Yeah. Even in
The ROI should be happiness. What the fuck?
I 100% agree. I think this is good introspection that you're doing. And another big call out is your best friend also said you're turning your daughter into a project too with the potty training. Like, relax.
Oh, yeah,
Relax.
Yes. The moment I basically was like, I have more free time.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do with this time? I must take on potty training because that's clearly the thing I need to do right now. And she's not even 22 months.
Yes.
And here I am, like, forcing her to be potty trained when she just learned that she has to go poo poo and pee pee. So, and Borvi and my best friend were both like, this is not the right time. She's not even ready quite yet. You can give it a few more months. Go do something else with this additional free time that you have. And I was like, shoot. Like, here I am again.
Yeah, hustling. You're trying to hustle and optimize and get some ROI.
Yeah.
AKA potty training.
I mean, ROI is like saving money on the freaking diapers.
Yeah. No, that's a big ROI, but not the time. Not the time, dude.
Yeah. I need to not think about like minutes in terms of ROI and actually think of minutes in terms of how do I find joy.
Yeah. I think that's a great takeaway.
Right. You, my friends, everyone, it's right. It's not about doing more. It's not about more output. It's not about saying yes to everything and trying to find ROI in literally every minute of your life. I think actually at this stage of life, now that we're moms to toddlers, it really is about being selective. It's about choosing and prioritizing what actually matters. And for me, it's my marriage, my daughter. And I need to make sure my daughter is not my project, but she's like my daughter, and I should be maximizing how to have fun together and make memories together, right? And I need to be more okay with things not getting done because I prioritize quality time with my husband and daughter rather than doing the dishes or whatever it is, right? The trade-off is worth it when it's like time well spent with my family. But I do think this is hard because it feels like you're doing less.
I totally agree with that. As we alluded to at the beginning of the episode, we're not used to saying no like this all the time. It feels like failure when you first start saying no, like the amount of anxiety that you had saying no to your manager about not attending the meeting. And for me, all the anxiety that I have about, putting restrictions on my schedule and now also saying, hey, my job performance might take a hit in the next 3 months. That's basically me saying no, right? So it does feel like failure, and for me, it continues to feel like failure and it definitely gives me anxiety, but I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with the season of life.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's a moment in time. It's not forever.
Yes, agree. Moment in time. So that takes us to permission to glow.
All right. Well, here we are. We're together in San Francisco. I would probably speak for the both of us and say that our permission to glow is being together. Without our kids this time, because the last time we brought our kids, that was an absolute shit show. So this is awesome. We've had just a few days together to catch up, to do our final podcast, to interview Sahana, and just catch up on all the things and talk about what we want to do with our podcast next. We've been taking in everyone's feedback, so it's been a really fun time.
Yeah, and just as we wrap up this season, like I think my permission to glow is we've seen such a huge boost in our podcast, such high engagement this season. And it's all because of you guys, our listeners, that are helping this podcast grow. Mm-hmm. I've connected with so many of our listeners. Yes. I think you should give a shout out to
yes, we have
your mommy friend.
Yes, I did meet a listener at the playground, and I met her kids and her husband, and she met my daughter and my husband, and it was really sweet. And it was really wonderful to have that community IRL and just see like the podcast is really like making connections and building the community, which was our goal in the first place, right? And I also should give a shout out to Purvi because in addition to this podcast, I feel like she has been crushing the Gujarati content. My Gujarati sucks. I have the intelligence of a kindergartner when it comes to Gujarati. Like, yeah, like I can understand, but I cannot speak for shit. And she's out here being auntie. And
I'm a Gujarati mummy.
yeah, she really is. She's straight up like mummy auntie status, and it's been hilarious to watch. And I feel like it's bringing more of a community because it's like so relatable. And so shout out to Purvi too for being queen of content.
Thanks, girl. On that note, thank you for joining us on our last episode of the season. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share with a mom that can resonate.
We'll catch you next season after the summer.